holy everyone. So for today's vlog, we're going to talk about the fascism. What is fascism? Fascism is a movement that promotes the idea of forcibly monolithic, regimented nation under the control of the autocratic ruler. The word fascism comes from fascio, the Italian word for bundle, which in this case represents bundles of people. Its origins go back to ancient Rome, when the faces were a bundle of wood with an axe head carried by the leaders. And now we're going to talk about the history of fascism. Mussolini coined the term fascism in 1919. He had been a communist but changed his opinions in the wake of World War I. The word fascism comes from the Italian fascio, meaning a bundle or a group, and is considered a term for a militant brotherhood. According to the history department at King College, the word fascist means an axe tightly bound with sticks, which became the symbol of the fascist movement. Mussolini's 1919 fascism mixed with extreme nationalist expansion with social programs like women's suffrage and workers' power. Fascist leaders quickly moderated their message, allied with conservatives and existing governments, and gained power. Fascist movements appeared struggling after the World War I or nervous about socialism. And according to American Historical Association, in Italy in 1922, strong armed squads known as the Black Shirt Militaria, who were financed by industrialists, fought socialists, conducted raids on socialist newspaper, and occupied socialist-led towns. They threatened to march on Rome in 1922. The government tried to placate Mussolini by naming Prime Minister. But in 1925, he established himself as a dictator. So why? What followed was violent suppression of dissent, the deification of Mussolini, violent expansion into Ethiopia, Albania, and other countries. 1939, alliance with Nazi Germany and participation in World War II. Hitler learned many lessons from Mussolini, including the importance of propaganda and violence. In the 1920s, he led his Nazi party to prominence through dramatic speeches, grand entrances, passionate rhetoric against Jews, Marxists, liberals, and internationalists. In January 1933, Weimar Republic President Paul von Hindenburg named Hitler Chancellor, hoping Hitler would stop growing Communist Party. By the summer, Hitler's rule had become a personal dictatorship. In violation of the Versailles Treaty, Hitler rearmed Germany and began invading neighboring lands. The invasion of Poland on September 1, 1939 kicked off World War II and the Holocaust. European fascist ideas inspired regions throughout Latin America, including Bolivia and Argentina. Spain and Portugal were dictatorships until 1975, but those governments were mixed of conservative and fascist parties. For the advantages, first we have the material development. Fascism created economic or material wealth for the nation where it was practiced. For example, in Italy, where fascism was practiced in 1919 and 1943. It led to the material prosperity of the country. In Adolf Hitler's Germany, the policies that were introduced led to an improvement in infrastructure, and industrial production was expanded. Next, we have the quick decision making. One of the major advantages of fascist state are the ability of its leaders to enact laws much more quickly than any other systems of the government. This helps to avoid delays that are associated with other systems of government, except during moment when a state of emergency is declared. And next, we have the national pride. Fascism led to the feeling of national pride wherever it was practiced. The Italians were proud to belong to the nation Italy, so no one conclude that fascism it encouraged national pride. Also in Germany, it was felt that the system restored national pride. And fourth, we have the reduction in crime. It is argued by some that fascism cuts down on crime. Why? This is premised on the fact that fascist regimes use excessive force, they are brutal, and also able to imprison people much faster. So it helps to push down crime to the minimum. It is believed that fascism in Italy was able to suppress the Sicilian mafia quite successfully. And next we have the efficient concentration of wealth. It is again argued of some quarters that fascists are able to concentrate with wealth and power in the most efficient way possible. It allows corporate power and government power to be linked in a way that is beneficial to the companies that operate within the system. And next we have the exceptional for producing armed forces. It is again argued that fascism is an exceptional form of the government for producing armed forces. The holding direct action, the violence, the strength, as core values in the army. To reduce individual human rights and opinions has the power to create a very efficient and exceptionally disciplined and aggressive army. And now we have disadvantages of fascism. First, suppression of liberties. It has been argued that fascism does not have any respect for any individual rights. The operator of the system trample upon the rights of the citizens with reckless abandon. And second is the unacceptable ideology. Fascism is a political ideology was not popular among the most countries. Its adoption was minimal. One can therefore conclude that it was not acceptable form of government among the Committee of Nations. Next disadvantage is the disregard for international law. Fascism did not conform to standards acceptable in international circles. Why? Because of its disregard for international laws and norms, it failed or refused to cooperate with the international community. Next, the fascism did not stand the test of time. So why? Unlike democracy, socialism, and capitalism, which existed for a long time, fascism did not last for long. It was short-lived. In fact, fascism ended the Second World War, or the World War II. The last but not the least, we have the disrespect for human life. So fascism regimes love to engage war. The fascist government fought many battles. The Mussolini government fought many wars. So did Adolf Hitler's government. In practice, no war is fought without the loss of human life, so no one can conclude that the fascists had no regard for human life. So that's it. Thank you so much for listening, and once again, good holy everyone. See you guys in the next vlog.
Good holy everyone. Good morning po, Prof. Joyce. Good morning, classmates. I am Grace Aradanas Rehencia. I will present to you the characteristics and principles of fascism and Mussolini's system of education, policy, initiatives, and the Gentile reforms. The main characteristics of fascism are extremely nationalism, militarism, social Darwinism, and racism. Government is led by a leader who is authoritative, and he leads the country and directs the policies to be framed. In order to rejuvenate the nationalism feeling among people, the violence by military action is necessary. The people of the nation are treated merely as a subject to the state, who are obliged to maintain and follow rules framed by the nation. Some pioneer personalities relating to fascism are Adolf Hitler, Francisco Franco, and Benito Mussolini. Some characteristics are single-party rule, no election, no right to vote, military violence, censorship, secret police. Traditional religion is practiced only if it is subdued to the national interests. Traditional gender rules define the works. The best example for this type of model is Hitler's Germany, and the plan for the world is to destroy democracy. It is incredibly difficult to name all the elements of fascism because its fascist leader and party interpreted the ideology slightly different ways. Some of the most prominent principles and characteristics of fascism include: first, totalitarian regime. One dictator has total control. Second, extreme militaristic nationalism. An individual's devotion to the state is strictly enforced. Third, disdain for electoral democracy. Leaders don't need to be elected from a group of candidates. Fourth, oppose political liberalism. The government must protect the people of all costs. Fifth, oppose cultural liberalism. The government must protect the specific culture and at all costs. Sixth, rule of the elites. There's a natural hierarchy of people. 7. Creation of people's community. Individual interests are subordinate to the good of the nation. 8. Corporatist economy. Society is organized by corporations that are subordinate to the state. 9th, mass mobilization. Leaders win popular support and power through mass gatherings of the public. 10th, oppose decadence. A fascist state fights by any means against characteristics like materialism and cowardice. Last, physical force. Violence is deemed necessary to combat opponents. Mussolini took great pride and pain to revamp the educational system in Italy to adhere in fascist ideology. He believed himself to be a liberator that would help Italian fascist education to create in Italy an education in citizenship. The existing school system did not meet the mark in multiple areas, and Mussolini had an uphill battle. Mussolini had to deal with include mass rates of illiteracy, lack of follow-through in local and rural areas in schooling, children that were sent in factories rather than in school, funding, and lack of unity. Mussolini had a severely divided system that needed to be completely revamped in order to work and unite people under one common goal: the fascist doctrine and nationalism for the Italian state. When founding the National Fascist Party, Mussolini stated the aims of educational policy for Italy. During the program of the National Fascist Party, December of 1921. The party platform states that the aim of the school should be to train persons capable of ensuring the economic and political progress of the nation, of raising the moral and intellectual level of the workers, and of providing for the constant renewal of the governing class by developing the best elements of all classes. Mussolini's solution was to declare Catholicism the official state religion of Italy. He formulated civil laws and educational policies which were ostensibly designed to compel citizen conformity with Catholic precepts. As a gesture to Adolf Hitler, Mussolini simultaneously targeted Italian Jews with discriminatory laws and policies. Italy's education system evoked the militaristic terminology and trappings of the old Roman Empire. Schools taught children to be creatures of the state. Carefully designed, state-sponsored, quasi-military youth organizations were established. Boys were to be soldiers, and girls were to raise soldiers. Mussolini's government invested heavily in education as a means of developing future generations of fascists. Ideological penetration of education was especially evident in primary schools, where politically reliable instructors ensured that children were drilled in fascist values, including strict obedience to authority, a spirit of sacrifice and heroism, and protection and enhancement of the Italian race. Fascist Party youth organization assisted the process of ideological instruction through university, with activities focused on pre-military trainings for boys and forms of civic service for girls. Through working-class youngsters were less likely to participate if they left school early into employment. In poorer parts of Italy, particularly the south and rural areas, lack of resources limited and extent and attractiveness of organized youth activities. Nevertheless, there is little doubt that the fascist regime was most successful in controlling the minds of the children and teenagers. Many were left traumatized by Mussolini's fall from power during the Second World War, having been brought up to believe that their leader and fascism were invincible. Okay, that ends my presentation. Thank you.
Good holy everyone, I am Rachel Maypi Kayawan and I'm going to report about the educational system and method of teaching of fascism. Educational system, Giovanni Gentiles in 1923 had the aim of creating a new ruling class that should morally and culturally come up to a national traditions and to the role claimed in Europe, including in the school curriculum, also physical education, military training, and the taking part in the regime's events our preconception of what is and the framework that led us to what is. It also assisting students in identifying insights from a variety of disciplines that contribute to an understanding of the issue at hand. Then second, thinking critically. It helps to acquire perspective, taking techniques and integrate contradictory insights from other disciplines and develop structural knowledge. Third, embracing ambiguity, meaning it helps students understand why conflict occur, the causes and consequence of an issue, and the best way for policy to address the issue of concern when learning is limited to a single disciplinary perspective. And last, analyzing ethical concerns. It helps students understand that most issues of concern have ethical dimensions. Moral concerns are involved in ethical considerations, which means accounting for perception of right versus wrong, good versus bad, and the provision of justice. And lastly, interdisciplinary teaching refers to the concept of learning a single subject from multiple perspectives, proven to boost learning outcomes and enthusiasm around learning, allows students to think critically, identify their own prejudices. Last, respect ethical boundaries often requires collaboration between multiple educators to properly execute. Meaning ng boundaries is mga suliranin nila. So, ibig sabihin, they teaching one subject using different method and respect different perspective. So that would be all. Thank you for watching and God bless.
Good Holy Proof and classmates, I am Angelica Wairica Forte, your presenter for this morning. So my co-presenters have already discussed what is fascism, characteristics of fascism, and its educational system. So now I will just summarize or discuss its implication to education. To start with, I will share with you the phrase coming from Benito Mussolini. So according to him, all within the state, nothing outside the state, and nothing against the state. So what does it mean? This simply means that the people of the nation are treated merely as a subject to the state, who are obliged to maintain and follow rules framed by the nation. With this kind of dictatorship, have you imagined yourself being in this kind of scenario? Like, how would you feel? Some of the fascism's characteristics are, there a single party rule, no election, no right to vote, military violence, censorship, and secret police. So imagine you as a person being born in this world and just living for the benefit of the state and being deprived of your human rights. Like how hard it is to get a life, be free, and away from conflict. So the implication or conclusion that we can draw from fascism to education is that it aims to make students who are vigorously and be obedient to the state. So what does it mean? Okay, first, it promotes a masculine curriculum that emphasizes militarism and patriotism. Their curriculum has been controlled by the state, and they changed the school into a more virile, disciplined, and fascist institution. The state-sponsored textbooks and schools become blatantly propagandistic and increase the militaristic regimentation of the school day. So, learners here are taught to become strong and ready to fight for the state. They are also trained to have a strong character and to exercise military preparation. Students must be courageous as citizens and stand united behind the state. Thus, this predominant theme of masculinity and heroism was lauded. The second one is, the family's role was to raise well-behaved children who will become good citizens, and that children not only work for their family, but they have to work for their country. They should grow up as law-abiding citizens with a deep respect for the duce and the state, and should learn the national hymns by heart, the Italian constitution, the country's political organization. So this indicates that the child's duty was to work as hard as he did or she could for the country regardless of the cost. The next one is women were not recognized as brave. Girls in school were taught a conflicting education of domestic skills and political activism. So, they were given the same political education as boys while they were didactically taught their duty to the state, who was to raise and care for their future families. So, there is bias and prejudice between men and women. So, that women should be prepared to perform the roles of wife and mother. So boys are trained and taught to become militaristic. Last but not the least is teachers struggled with limited freedom given to them. So according to a Nazi writer, Hermann Kloss, the teacher is not just an instructor and transmitter of knowledge. He is a soldier, serving on the cultural and political National Socialism. For intellectuals belong to the people or they are nothing. So, any teacher who vocalized anti-fascist ideas, even in private, was subject to deportation. So, teachers who did not practice these principles or who appeared skeptical of fascist or Nazi idealism were subject to dismissal, often as a result of reports by student informers. So, it is not only hard for the children but also for the teachers who doesn't have the authority and freedom. So, to sum it up, the fascist control over schools tightened so the regime could emphasize the primacy of masculinity within Italian culture to students. Schools become vehicles of political education that emphasizes binary gender roles. So, teachers had a little authority over what they thought teaching traditional gender roles and the students' duty to the state. So, the curriculum revolved around the cult of ancient Rome, the glory of Italy, and militarism. That would be all. Thank you so much for listening.